Hi Luke, I just finished watching your video and I enjoyed it very much, although I was very just completely thwarted and baffled by some of the response videos you've been getting. They're just made by complete savants that aren't thinking critically at all. And I really support pretty much virtually every point you made in this video. I think it was a great video. And I'd like to debunk at least 4 out of 6 of those response videos, so I'm going to fit them all in this. And let's begin with Crash and Burn, who claimed that the troops are fighting for their country. No, that's ultimately incorrect, Crash and Burn. The troops are fighting for their government. Let us please distinguish between country and government. They've been, through the propaganda machinery the governments use in the beginning stages of the war, and it even still lingers on. People are manipulated and cajoled into thinking that they're fighting for their country. But they're really fighting for their government. They're fighting for Halliburton, Cheney, and the Bush administration. When there's 50 million people walking around the streets of the United States without health care insurance, is the war benefiting them? Are those people out there? Is all the tax money that's getting spent on the war out there, is that benefiting them? No, of course not. And many would agree with me that this isn't about the people. They're fighting, and they're not fighting for the people. And people who think, like you, that they're fighting for the people have been have absorbed the propaganda that was that's really infiltrated a lot of the country. And we're starting to see some resistance, which is very good, and we're starting to see a little bit more critical thinking. But apparently, you haven't started thinking critically yet. You're still thinking that the troops are fighting for your country, and they're not. The troops are fighting for your government. So there's a fundamental distinction there. Hopefully you can see the difference. It's not very hard to get, but you didn't get it. Hopefully maybe after me pointing it out to you, you will see the difference. Stubborn Canary claimed that military recruiters get blacks and Latinos because they don't have much of a future, and they give them a future. Again, Stubborn Canary, another product of the propaganda machinery. First of all, do you call getting sent over there a future? Do you call that a future? Moreover, do you call the Mexicans that have their citizenship fast-tracked by getting sent over? They have this little deal worked out that the Mexicans can have their citizen fast-tracked if they go over and fight in Iraq. It's like they're like just material. It's like they're not even worth the full value of a human. They get fast-tracked, but they get put at the front line, so they risk death every day over there. You call this a future? I don't call this a future, and I think a lot of people would agree with me that this really isn't a future. It's misplaced energy, is what it really is. Moreover, these recruiters that go to these low-income areas, it's no surprise that we're not getting Bush's children or the children of politicians over there fighting the war. No, they're preying on the weak. They're preying on people that have been polarized and are at the bottom rung of the ladder. They're preying on the marginalized, and I think that's disgusting. I think it's a sin. And you think that's a future? You think that's opportunity to go over there to get manipulated and cajoled into thinking that this is a great thing and to go over there? Again, you're not thinking very critically, Stubborn Canary. It's not a future. It's maybe a last resort for some of these people that are so impoverished that they don't even have enough food to go around, that they don't have health care insurance. If they get injured, they're screwed. They might even be living on food stamps. I mean, it's really sad that they have to go over there just to sustain themselves, just to just to exist. That's disgusting. If you want to talk about what really gives people a future, we can maybe talk about redistributing wealth. That might be something a little more beneficial in really providing a future for people. What about establishing a better education curriculum? What about having healthcare reform and providing healthcare for those 50 million people that if they get injured they're screwed? That is a future. Going to Iraq is no future. Okay, free market mind, the third in order. First of all, you said all those things about Saddam Hussein. It should be first noted that Rumsfeld sold him weapons in the 80s. But second of all, do you have any footnotes? Do you have any sources? Are you basing these statements on? Did you get this from peer-reviewed articles? Where are you coming up with these stories? Seems to me that this is also part of the propaganda machinery. It's not very surprising. Second of all, you claimed that these people die for you, quote unquote, and then you said to Luke, "Do not berate people that die for you." You said it very aggressively. Again, you make the same mistake that Crash and Burn made. Are these people fighting for Luke? Are these people fighting for the people without health care insurance? Are these people fighting for the marginalized? No. They're fighting for their government. They're not dying for Luke. They're not dying for you. They're not dying for the people of America. They're dying for Halliburton. They are dying for George Bush. They are dying for Cheney and Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz and Pearl. Okay, they are dying for their government. Drill this through your head. Please, maybe even pick up Howard Zinn's A People's History of the United States. You've been so manipulated and cajoled into believing and buying all this patriotism and this overinflated and ballooned sense of triumphalism that you're not seeing things very objectively. You're viewing it through a window rather than a dome. You need to look at things from a bird's eye view and see what is really going on here. You're not thinking critically at all. They're not dying for you or Luke or the people of America. They're dying for their government. So you make the mistake that everyone's made so far. And finally, the fourth is Ghost in the Machine, who said with such pride and such triumphalism, again that word, it's almost annexed with Americans. Whenever, especially when we're talking about matters of war, there's always this sense of triumphalism. There was also triumphalism after the Cold War. If you read some of the articles that Russian scholars have made, they have a very different narrative. They don't think they lost the Cold War. They think the Cold War was ended by a series of negotiations that was first initiated by Gorbachev. But the United States, there's all this triumphalism, and after the fall of the Berlin Wall, which symbolized the end of communism and the triumph of capitalism over communism. It's again, and you make the same irrational argument here when you say, who was it that exterminated the Nazis? The United States. This is misplaced energy too. This is not correct. The war was basically won on the Russian front, and many would agree with this. The war was won on the Russian front, mainly with the Battle of Stalingrad. From the Battle of Stalingrad onward, the Nazis were pushed backwards, and that's when, and actually, who was it that outproduced Nazi Germany? There's only one country, and that was the Soviet Union. It wasn't the United States. So, and furthermore, if you want to look at sheer numbers, just look at the death toll. I mean, you can see what countries really put themselves out. It wasn't the United States, I can tell you that. They just had a little fun with their trigger and just bombed a bunch of innocent men, women, and children in the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's got a little trigger happy, but they really didn't do much to defeat the Nazis. That's ultimately incorrect. But again, it's a product of this propaganda. It's a product of this triumphalism, of this sense of patriotism, which is very misplaced energy. And it begins from a young age, when you are told to sing the national anthem every day, and you go to big games and baseball games, and you root for your team, and you root for your country, and you toot whistles and sing the anthems, and there's this, you pledge allegiance to the flag, and this is all misplaced energy. It becomes a ready-made source for catastrophe when governments want to initiate aggressive policies and draw upon all that ready-made patriotism that's so deeply rooted that all they have to do is taint it and channel it towards an object of obsession. And that's when the instrumentalism, as Luke points out, comes in. The people start no longer thinking and just simply obey orders. And that's when you have things like Nazi Germany and the war in Iraq. That's how they're able to materialize, by just hundreds of thousands of people not questioning authority and instead just following orders and putting their head down. it's like it's just blind patriotism.